Hey guys, and welcome back to Real Estate Renovators, the show that's designed to help real estate agents navigate through the current shitstorm. Now, we've had a bit of fun in the first two episodes, and today we've got a special guest. But before I introduce him, I've got to introduce my fellow co-host, Rexy. How are you, big fella?
I'm so good, mate. You?
Yeah, good. You're looking quite sharp in that suit there, handsome man.
That's what I do.
Chanel, our professional HR, P&C guru. Hey, Chanel.
I don't know about professional, but I'll take the guru part. I'm good, thanks, Jace. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah?
Quick question.
Yes.
How many champagnes before we started today?
They were 3, but it was mimosa. So it was actually 50% orange juice, 50% champagne. So technically it was only 1 champagne.
I thought it was like a 90-10 split. But,
You had blurry vision, Rex. It's definitely
I
one
made them, though,
champagne.
so bad.
Well, you know.
He was the pourer. And how could we forget Petey? How are you, Virtual Pete?
Morning, team.
You had any of the mimosa, orange juice, champagne sort of behaviour going on?
Just water, unfortunately.
So today, Pete, sorry, I just gave you the arse there in a heartbeat, didn't I? Really, that's not quite inappropriate for me to do that to Pete. He's a good friend of mine. Today, our episode's really exciting because we're going to talk all about growth. And who better to get than the guy that's been stalking us for the last 5 or 6 weeks, to be honest?
Probably longer. But
Probably is Rob Ozzimo, who runs, along with his partners, Harcourts Rata Co in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. G'day, Robbo. How are you, pal?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good to see you, big man. Rob's going to tell us quite a few stories, I think, I hope anyway, and going to give us a bit of insight into how he's taken his firm from 4 team members to in excess of 100. I mean, Rex, you've got to admit, that's pretty outstanding.
it's amazing. And in such a short time as well. My understanding it's been 12 months or so that you went from 4 people to over 100. So let us know.
There was a point in time, that we had that growth.
Yeah, but we
over
want to
12,
know.
18
Like, I'm
months.
sure every agent wants to know, how do you grow that quickly and so well and be regarded and take over the whole north side to some extent in such a short period of time from a nothing?
Yeah, I don't think that you can put it down to just one thing. The first thing that we had in place is I've got a really great team of business partners, and we're all very focused on where we want to be. So goal setting is very important, and because it's impossible to know, where you're going if you don't have a goal. So once you've set your goals and you understand where it is that you want to be, and for us it was about market share, it was about growth in our rent roll, and then you can go about setting a plan to get there.
With your goals, how did you sit down as a team and put them together, and did you revisit it over time, or was it just you set your goals and it grew by itself?
Well, we always have to revisit them because the thing about goals is they always change. The goalposts always change. What we're going through at the moment is a perfect example. Going through COVID, so the goals don't necessarily change. You might alter them slightly, but the way that you get there definitely changes all the time, and there's unforeseen things. So we always revisit not only our goals but the path that we're on, and we discuss whether we need to take detours or we're on track.
That's a good point, Robbo. Mike Tyson famously coined the phrase, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And the thing about plans is often, Rob, they don't go to plan. So how did you guys sort of navigate through, obviously the last 9 months has been quite challenging, but not just that. I mean, as you've grown your business, there's been a lot of ups and downs and a lot of different challenges. How did you guys stay on track?
Well, first of all, there's no clear track without any obstacles. So there's always things that you need to assess and things that come up along the way. And the thing that's inherent with growth is that it creates even more problems and things that you haven't foreseen. And so the communication that I have with my business partners and the level of communication and the shared vision that we have in our goals is what sustains us. And it's just about making sure that at every single turn, at every single event, that we come together as a group and we decide how that affects our journey, how that affects our goals, and we adapt.
I think the thing is, with communication, everything can be solved through communication. Now, one of the challenges is with business partners, right? And we've spoken about this before, and without being disrespectful, but real estate, there's a couple of egos going on. You've got to admit that, right? So how do you guys, do you leave your egos at the door? How do you navigate through that? Someone might be and Chanel, I know you've got a bit to say about that, Chanel, but how do you guys get through that piece?
Well, we beat our chests first, and then we put it aside. And then we put it aside and we focus on what's good for the business.
It's a bit like Big Rex was on the bench press before we started, right?
Can I draw it back there? So knowing Harcourts Rata Co for a really long time now, how, Rob, does the Rata sort of work? Because I know that within your business, it's very different to a lot of other businesses where each business owner has a certain sort of duty within the business. So how is the Rata sort of structured, and what sort of part does each business owner play in the business?
Well, we do have a sort of a division of duties. We all have, as business owners, we've all got our individual sales teams that operate under us. So we're first of all responsible for a certain group of people, and then some of us are responsible more for the rent roll, and then others are responsible for the commercial side of the business. But in terms of the direction of the business, it's something that we decide together.
And how often do you sit down and talk about that? Is that once a year? Is it every 6 months? Like the vision of where you're going? Do you like change that often, or?
We try not to change it too often because we've got some pretty, big audacious goals that basically we're striving to achieve, and that might, be a journey of another 10 years. We don't know. So we always communicate to change the direction to get to those goals. But we'll talk all the time. So we might have more of a formal discussion about the big decisions that we need to make in the business, once a month or once a quarter. But we're always talking, and if we're not on the phone, we're on text. And now,
what about during salami
Zoom.
season? Can I ask? Is that where a lot of business meetings happen during salami and winemaking season, or is that just?
Well, I think that's an important point you raised.
I think it is too.
To your point about egos, the first thing you need to do is share common goals and common visions, because we all need to be moving in the one direction. And if we're all moving in the one direction, then there's less chance for conflict. And to Chanel's point, we're very good friends outside of work. So we do things, like she mentioned the salami and wine. We just made our first batch of wine, about 200 litres of wine. So I should have bought you a bottle
Where's
today.
my bottle?
I was wondering where the link to salami was coming, to be honest.
I'll express post it.
They do. They've got a great salami setup where they then go and create big salami sticks that they're then.
To be honest with you,
Jason, calm down.
No.
Calm down.
That's not what it sounds like.
I think
we're
someone
not
needs
that
to
close.
someone needs to put the aircon on in here. Pete, I know you're in Bris Vegas, and are you listening to this whole salami conversation? I thought we were here talking about selling properties and listing properties.
Chanel's going to wear this one.
No, but Chanel's had a big involvement in the growth of your business.
Yeah, very much so.
Think about that, growing from 4 to 100 Rex.
Can I take it back though? I want to know how you did it. How do you go from 4 to 100? How do you maintain your culture? How do you maintain the goals within the group inside it? I understand the partners have the shared vision. What about everyone else in your team?
Well, we spend a lot of time with Jason. We spend a lot of time with Jason working out what our mission statement was and our core values. And we ensure that we share those with the team so that the team is on board with our goals. How do you do it though? How do you share the vision? Just in every day. So, when we first came up with the mission statement, we would share it with them in more of a formal meeting. But in our one-on-ones with our team members, we assess their performance not only based on the numbers, but based on whether they live in the core values of the company and whether they're living up to the mission statement.
So that's music to my ears. And I know, Pete, you're big on this, nailing your purpose. Who do you serve and how do you serve them? And then
Last episode, we're talking to your people on a regular basis about your values and mission. So it's really great, Rob, that you sort of embody that sort of thought. So congratulations.
And I think the big thing that we need to remember is no one's going to love your business as much as you do. Right? It's your baby, Robbo. You guys have set it up. You can see clearly where you're going. And for some of our team members, respectfully, it's just a job for them. And so the more time, Rex, that you spend encouraging and sharing your vision, talking about your core values, what you stand for, and your purpose, who do we serve and how do we get there, keep reminding your team members. I think that's a real big part of how we get to where we want to go. And I think the big thing, kudos to you guys, around not just reporting on the numbers, but also the behaviour of your team members and embracing that culture.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the only way really to get buy-in from your team is to get them to buy into the goals and to the values of the business. And in that way they have a sense of pride. And that's so important because that plays out on the street, that plays out in the living room, whether it's with a landlord, a tenant, a vendor, a buyer. And they represent the company more passionately. And I think that relates to what happens out in the street and the passion that we have when we're out on the street doing auctions and the energy of the company. And so when you say, pinpoint how you had that growth. It's very hard to pinpoint one or two things. It's just a culmination of everything.
How do you go from 4 to over 100 and maintain that? What do you guys do to maintain? How did you grow from 4 to 100? And you've got 5 offices now.
Yeah.
So how do you go from there? I think you've potentially more.
I think that...
how do you recruit? How do you get the right team members on board?
Because, before you answer that, if you ask any business owner, the hardest thing that they'll say to you is to find, attract, and hold on to good people. I mean, how do you do that? Like, not just 1 or 2 people, but they've picked up 96 people in a year.
Oh, we've got the help of Chanel here, which has been a great help. How many did you grow in the months that you spent with us?
I think 60. We hit about 60 in 6 months.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say about Harcourts Rata Co is that when I have candidates go and interview there, so let's just say we have a property manager in the northern suburbs, and say I've got six agencies that I can send them to for an interview. Hands down, I'm going to say 9.5 out of 10 times, they'll walk away from an interview with Harcourts Rata Co and they'll want that job. And it doesn't come down to just salary. They'll walk into the interview and it's the way that you sell the business and the environment when you walk into that particular office that makes people want to work there. And I think that comes down to the culture that yourself, Andrew, Tony, Alex, and Daniel have all created. But it's almost a buy-in. It's a buy-in to the vision of the business, the growth of the business, and it's almost like a family or a culture of its own. So how did you create that? How do you create this culture? Because it still baffles me that I've never had a candidate walk away, even if they're offered 10 grand another agency, they want to work for Harcourts Rata Co. And it's still like, I see how you guys do that, but how do you do that?
I think as leaders, we bring unique qualities to the table. We've got a lot of passion and a lot of energy, and we make sure that the team feels that. And it just, the environment starts with us. It starts with absolutely everything you do from the moment that you step into the office every single morning. And if you step in and you're dragging your feet, well, that's the environment that you're going to create. But if you step in with energy, with a passion for what you do, a passion for your team, a passion for your clients, and a passion for the industry, then eventually that's contagious. As I said, it's hard to pinpoint 1 or 2 exact things, but when you've got that culture and you nurture that culture, the people that you send to us to interview, they feel that when they walk through the door.
Yeah.
They feel that buzz and that energy.
They really do. I actually can't pinpoint it, but it really is an energy that the moment you walk in, you genuinely feel like you're part of a big family. It's bizarre. I can't explain it. It's just the energy that you've created.
How do you maintain that through multiple offices? Because it's easy.
That's a good point.
It's easy to maintain in one office because you're there all the time, but you've got 5 offices. So how do you maintain that energy, that culture through 5 different offices?
That's been a difficult thing to do. Because sometimes you have issues in a certain office that may be contained to that office. And so it's very hard to get that group of people to think in the same way as another group of people do. But what we do is we just try as much as we can to involve the team in absolutely everything. So it's one team.
So your team, when you do social events or anything like that? All one.
All one. Yeah.
What about team meetings and stuff? Is that all one or is it?
So our rental department now is sitting under one roof. So they're one team now, and they'll do their meetings all together, and they all follow the same systems and same procedures. That's very important too, that everybody understands what's required of them. Same with the sales team, although it's easier to cultivate culture with a sales team that's splintered across multiple offices, because a lot of the stuff that happens in the team is on the road and on the street, and they all pitch in and help each other regardless of which office they sit in.
So that intrigues me. They help each other. They don't pinch leads off each other, and they work together, do they?
We make it. We have a very clear, concrete set of sales rules, which cover what happens with leads, what happens with listings, what happens with buyers, who's vendors, who's.
Can you share that with us? Do you mind or not? Or is that a bit of
It's like a 2-page document.
How do you police it though? So how do you police something like that? You can have a set of rules in place over 5 different offices and 100 agents or whatever the case may be. How do you police it and make sure everyone's sticking to it?
Very easily. If an issue comes up, before the sales team or the people that have the issue come to us, they have to refer to the rules. If they can't find a solution within the rules, then we'll adjudicate. And we've had to do that twice.
Twice.
Only twice.
in 20 years or 16 years
It's
or
a
whatever.
very comprehensive list of rules.
I've
Yeah.
seen that handbook.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very detailed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's gone from a 2-pager to a handbook.
Well,
now.
I don't necessarily say, but one
It's a
thing that,
two-pager.
that Harcourts Rata Co do, and it's something that we touched on in our previous episode, it's consistency. And there's consistency across the board
Yeah.
with everything that you do.
When you don't have consistency, then people don't know what to expect and what's expected of them, and then that ruins culture.
Can I go-
Sorry,
Please.
Pete put his hand up, and
Oh.
he's a friend of mine from Brisbane. Right? Don't forget about Pete.
Sorry, Pete.
Pete, the point that Robbo just raised there, I think, is a real valid point, right? And what he said, and I know that you do a lot of this sort of work with your clients, rather than like Robbo and all the boys working out the problem, they go, you guys fix your own problem. Here's the guidelines. Here's the handbook, as Chanel would say. You guys fix the problem. In your experience, Pete, that works better than going to a dictator or someone fixing the problem. It's even like parenting, right? If you say to your child, if you've got a kid, I know Rob's you got a couple in Australia and a few overseas in Thailand. But one of the conversations I've been having with my youngest son, Tom, he's 13 years old and he has a knack of just hitting the PlayStation. And then with COVID and all that sort of stuff and school holidays, he was spending like 9-10 hours a day on the PlayStation. And rather than me saying,
Wait till
Tom,
he meets girls. It might go away.
this is Rex again. He's got
Personal experience.
yeah, slight problem. He's on wife number 4 or 5. Anyway, sorry, Rex. No, is she number 4? No. Anyway, sorry, I'm just joking. So, but rather than me saying to Tom, or Angie and I saying to Tom, look, you're spending too much time, we said to Tom, how much time do you think you should spend on the PlayStation? He said, oh, Dad, maybe about 2 hours and maybe an hour on my phone. And so he became accountable for his own actions. Now, I'm not saying as employers, we treat our team members like kids, but it's a similar sort of concept, isn't it, Pete?
I think if you can get your staff to actually work it out before it comes to you, they also have more sort of ownership over resolving it as well, rather than having someone tell them and make a judgment on it. And you know, we see that a lot in agencies where if people can actually work those issues out at an actual staffing level, the culture is so much more alive and it's actually embodied by the people rather than it coming from the top again. I think in the previous episode we spoke about culture, you know, being sort of alive within the actual ranks and the staff, opposed to it being pushed upon from the leaders. So, you know, that's music to my ears, Rob. It's a great outcome for your business.
But look, there's no doubt that the culture has to start with the leadership group, right?
Can
Always,
I go back one step?
Yeah.
Your rule book. How did you create this rule book?
So it's gone from a 2-pager to a handbook, now a rule book. No, I'm joking.
I'll just clarify. It's a
Two-pager
two-pager.
rule book.
Hey,
The
Robbo, you keep
handbook-
saying it.
Yeah, the handbook I think is the whole company handbook.
Yeah,
but maybe
she's talking about the policy and policies and
yeah.
procedures manual.
But just to clarify, it's a 2-pager.
The sales rules are 2-pager. We try and keep it as simple as we can, and we've tried to think of all the possible scenarios.
But who created it and when did you create it?
It was born from our experience as salespeople, and the issues that we experience as salespeople, and the issues that the directors would not want to get involved in or adjudicate unfairly. So when we started the business in 2010, that was one of the first things that we did was implement that.
And once
that
you
rule.
implement it, how do you make sure everyone abides by it? How do you? So if
Rex,
I'm a new sales,
sorry, Rex, you're sounding very much like a lawyer.
I am. Apparently, I'm one too. But once you implement this rule book, how do you make sure a new sales agent that joins your company knows about it and ensures that they stick to it as well?
Yeah, well, that's the first thing that they get. So it's required reading before they start. They need to understand the rules. And the less experienced salespeople
So
might
back
make.
to your required reading. So you make sure every new sales agent reads this before they start.
Yeah. And as soon as there's any issue, the first question that's asked from us is, have you read the rules? Right? And if the answer is no, we'll go back and read the rules. And usually 99% of the time, the answer will be in the rules.
And that comes back to what Chanel was saying about consistency, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, so it hasn't always been rosy, surely not.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely not.
You know,
No.
we've spoken about a good story. We've grown from 4 to 100. We're rock stars. Blah blah blah. It's so easy. We hired all these guys. It was really easy. Surely you've had a few
Oh, we've had a lot.
downs
We've
as
had a
opposed to ups.
Yeah, we've had a lot.
And often people say that most of our learning comes from our failures as opposed to our successes.
I couldn't agree more.
Can you share with us some issues and how you've dealt with them with the people piece. I mean, I keep going back to people because they're the most important part of our business. And at times, they're challenging. Now, if you think about this, Chanel, in your experience, I mean, you've been in HR for a long, long time. Doesn't look it. You started when you were 3. No, you've been in it for... Hey, Mum didn't call me Kmart for a reason. We love that. Chanel, a.k.a. Gucci. No, sorry.
That's my future daughter's name.
Yeah,
Don't tell everyone.
No doubt you've just reserved. Valentino, Gucci. Let's back on track, Jason. Come on, work with yourself. But in your experience, right, most team members have 1 or 2 issues that they go through, personal issues, a year, right? So if you've got 100 times 2, that's 200. It's like 4 a week that you're dealing with. How did you guys navigate through that? Or do you go, oh, sorry, back to the rules?
I think that's where Rex actually comes into it a lot, doesn't he?
We have helped a couple of times, unfortunately.
But Rex, that's fair enough. Like, there's legal stuff, but you know what? People are people, Rob.
I see your point. Yeah, I see
You
your
know,
point.
we're all people, and at the end of the day, what we've been through with this nightmare lockdown, no one can go anywhere, we're all dealing with a lot of shit.
Yep.
Right? And at the end of and I use a bit of French, as you know, at the end of the fucking day, people are people. How do you spend the time with your team? Because they're obviously looking up to you guys.
Yeah. Well, that's how we spend most of our time is with our team and getting to know them more and getting to understand what's going on, not only in their work life, but in their personal lives, and just being there to be able to assist them in any way that we can. I think that I would like to think, and I'm quite confident that anyone on our team knows that they can approach us for anything at any time without any hesitation.
But there is that boundary, isn't it, Chanel? I mean,
one thing I really wanted to sort of a point that we should make is that during COVID, there's been incredible turnover with a lot of successful businesses. And a lot of that's come down to how directors handled COVID and how they shared that message of safety, support, encouragement and consistency, again, with their team members. And one thing I noticed with Rata Co, again, is that you had your message delivered to each individual team member and you looked at every individual team member and what their situation was during COVID, whether they were a single mother. So how did you sort of come together and have this plan about how to communicate all the changes that were happening during COVID, and how was that sort of made consistent across the board with, a team of 90 or 100 or however many you have now? Yeah,
well, COVID was obviously a unique challenge for everyone. And for us, you're right, it was about making sure that we provided, a procedure or system for each individual employee that they could continue to do their work, continue to be productive, and hopefully flourish in their work during that time. And we've got throughout the whole COVID or lockdown, our rental team just absolutely outperformed. In lockdown, we were releasing 80, 90 properties a month, and we weren't even doing inspections.
Yeah, wow.
And so we're really, really fortunate to have the team that we've got in, not just in rentals, but overall in our admin, sales. They've really just all pulled together.
I've known you guys for a long time, and I know your focus has been not just on the sales piece, but also on the PM part of your business. And this is an area where Pete sort of really comes to the fore. I mean, he doesn't offer too much, to be honest. No, I'm only joking, Pete. I love you. But Pete is a big proponent of the importance of the PM business, and also the importance, when we spoke about culture, Chanel, and we often talk about that disparity between the sales team and the PM guys. And I know in your business, it's very much equal across the board. Can you talk us more about how important that is? Because I don't want to discount this point, and I know I keep harping on it, but at the end of the day, if you look in this industry, how hard and how many hours real estate agents work, right? If you then say there's 24 hours in a day, let's say you sleep for 8, or Rexy 2.5, whatever. So say you sleep for 8, you have a shower, get to work. The most part of your day that you're awake is you're at work with your employer and your team members. Yeah. And often it's easy, like you're a gun real estate agent, it's easy to slip back and like list a couple of properties or, speak to the customer. But rather than doing that, you're spending time with your team members. How much of your time throughout the week would you dedicate to being there for the guys that work with you?
Obviously a little bit less at the moment in COVID because we're restricted in the way that we can meet. But in a normal day, under normal circumstances, probably 80% of my day is spent with my team.
Yeah, wow.
It's It's often that I'll pop into the Rata Co office and they're having a barbecue at the back with sales and rentals, or there's been, I think, times where I've walked into an office and there's a big salami spread and they're all eating
You're
that.
back on the salami
I'm
again.
sorry. I'm also very European, so I take a lot of pride in my salami. But
So at the interval,
This is-
Chanel's going to cook us up a little bit of
Rob brought some in the boot of his car to slice them up.
We should have a count on how many times this woman mentions champagne and
salami.
salami.
These are the small things that create because I think a lot of business owners will watch this and they'll be like, all right, we get it. Like,
Is that the only reason you come to our office for the salami?
for the salami? Yes, and yeah, well, that's one of the major reasons.
I'm going to be popping through now.
But I think that a lot of business owners watch this and they're like, okay, we get it, culture, but how do you actually create it? How, like, it's like what I said last time, it's a word that's thrown around frequently, but I think what business owners really want to know is how do you create that culture? So when we're looking at Team Rata & Co, we're hiring people that reflect their Rob, Andrew, Tony, Alex, and Daniel's goals in life. And they are very much salami goal driven because they have, no, I'm kidding. But they're creating an environment where people are drawn to it because they want to be part of a big family. And that's what it feels like when you walk in there. So people aren't drawn, I mean, yes, they're drawn to the fact that it's a big brand and it's a big office and there's a lot of room for growth and progression, but they're drawn to it because they walk into an office and like I said, there might be a barbecue happening in your courtyard area or, you know, a big spread of salamis and cheeses. And
Again with the salami.
This sounds ridiculous, but these are things that when we are on the field talking to candidates all day, every day, why did you prefer the interview with Harcourts compared to the interview with John Black Real Estate? Because I walked in there and I saw this, and this.
And also, John Black offered prosciutto as opposed to salami. I'll
take the prosciutto.
Can I digress this to something else that I'm more interested in?
Off-cured meats.
Off-cured meat.
Just quickly though, to that point, to Chanel's point, Chanel understands us. She understands our business, and so we're fortunate that we've got someone that knows us intimately like that. So when she does place a candidate, she places the ones that fit.
Which is so important. What I want to know is, how do you go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 offices and not just maintain the culture, but there's a choice that you need to make at some stage. Do you keep it all in one house or do you keep expanding? And there's a cost to expand as well. And there's diversity and there's risks and all this stuff.
There's rent and
there's
overheads.
extra rent, extra reception staff, extra admin, extra everything when you do that. And is there a benefit to doing it? And what decisions are made when you expand to multiple offices? And is it worthwhile?
Yeah, and can I just add to that? Only because I just want to add to it. And Chanel's obviously going to bring in the salami any moment now. No, but there's that
Extra salami as well.
also the movement of, do we actually need physical offices? You know? So can you talk us through that?
We're having this discussion right now, actually, because COVID has opened our eyes to what the technology can actually do for us, and we were lucky that we were early adopters of a lot of the technology that's available.
You have your
in the
own
marketplace.
technology as well.
Sorry?
You have your own technology that you use. as
Yeah,
well.
we do. Yeah, and so we adopted it early on. So coming into COVID, we were fortunate that we had that in place, and when we had to make changes and adapt, but it does make you look at the space. And we've got 5 offices, and there's plenty of floor space there, and you do ask yourself the question whether we actually need that. I believe that there's still something to be said for a traditional shop front in a location, but does that need to be a full office, or should we house everyone under one roof? We did that with the rental team, and it's worked out quite well because it's actually helped the culture a lot. Whereas, especially in rentals, there was a little bit of splintering with the different teams, and now being under one roof, it's easier to control the procedures. It's easier to control how everyone works.
That's a good point that you raised, Robbo, is about, often people talk about managing people, and I don't think you can manage a person, right? It's more around managing the process, which is one of the things, Pete, that you're big on, is around making sure handbook, rule book, 2-pager, whatever we've got. But it's around managing the process and managing the behaviours associated with those processes. Pete, can you give us a little bit of insight into that? I know you do a lot of work in that space.
What I'd really love to know is that obviously sales and property management are normally got a huge division in terms of cultures and the behaviours in those types of environments are quite different, right? At your agency, how do you get that connectivity between the two services?
Pete, before we go down, I think you just didn't even answer my question. I mean, what am I to you? No, I'm not joking. No, that was probably inappropriate for me to say that about Pete, but he just ignored me. I asked him a question and he said, Jace, get fucked. I've got my own question, you know? Is that fair? I mean, do you think that's a bit disrespectful?
I think he's a bit hurt today.
I am, you know, to be honest, I'm a bit gentle. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit precious.
He's fragile.
Jace.
No, that's okay. You forgive it.
Sorry.
No, yeah.
So what was the question was about the creating unity
Listen.
between the two
Sorry.
the two departments.
No, so sales is obviously quite different to PM, right? In its culture and how you manage people. And to just on the back of what Jason was saying is that how do you actually get that connectivity culturally between two services that are very, very different? Like PM is obviously very nurturing and caring in its sort of entirety, but then sales is very sort of quite sort of full on sort of target driven. So how do you get that connectivity between those two sort of parts of the business?
I think a big thing is working with your sales teams and to get them to understand what it is that the property management department does, because a lot of salespeople don't actually get what they do, and because of that, then they'll put extra pressure in a property manager's day, and Pete, that property manager's day is full of pressure as it is, so they don't need that. So if you can get each department to understand that we're all pulling in the one direction and understand how someone else's role contributes also to their success, then they're more likely to work in with that person rather than just demand.
Can I ask a stupid question, right? Is it really that important that the sales guys and the PM guys work together? I mean, I know that sounds...
I think it is.
Yeah,
It is,
so
yeah.
I want to know why.
He'll probably tell you better than I
No,
will.
you're the big man, you're the lawyer. Okay? Big mouth with a nice suit. I'd love the pinstripe action, I'll be honest with you.
He likes you too. In my non-real estate experience, you want them to always work hand in hand. A lot of sales comes from the real estate department.
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
what
real
I want from
estate,
you, big
every
boy.
time you get a sales, if it's a investment property, you want them to convert to your real estate, to your PM management.
The figures are anywhere between 5 and 10% of the rent roll turns over in sales every year, and so we want to be making sure that we get 100% of that. And if you don't have a good relationship between property manager, potential vendor who's now a landlord and sales team, then things fall through the cracks. And the service from a landlord who's been serviced by the property management department and then transitioning into a vendor, it needs to be seamless.
Yeah.
And that can't be seamless unless the communication between the team is.
Even in, I'm sure, Pete. Yeah, go Pete.
What part does property management play in your plan? Like, you've obviously got 5 offices, multiple sales team. What does property management mean to you as an organisation and where you guys are going?
It means as much to us as it does that sales do. So we put as much focus and effort into our property management department and growing the portfolio as we do in growing market share in our marketplace.
Rob, if you go to a listing, does a property management go for a sales agent?
No.
You keep them separate.
No. How do you mean?
How do you integrate the two?
So if you go to a sales listing,
Yeah.
no, we typically don't bring a property manager.
But then how do you go about integrating the property management team with your sales team?
Well, surely
to
the
a vendor
landlord
or
brings
landlord?
up and...
Well, there's certain events that would trigger a salesperson getting in touch with a landlord or a property manager getting in touch with a buyer or a vendor.
How do you
So I'll give you an
orchestrate
example.
that? Yeah.
So, because we've all technology based now, everything's on the iPad and everything's automated. So at a point of sale, so let's just say we've knocked something down, we bring the buyer in, we're signing the contracts, and they turn out to be an investor. It's one extra click, and then the BDM department gets that lead, and they're onto it straight away. By the end of the day, they've organised an appointment.
And
The BDM department?
BDM department,
business development.
Yeah, no, I know what it stands for.
Yeah.
No, but so you've got a dedicated team.
At the moment, we've got 2 team members that their role is to get business.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
You should have that, in my opinion.
it's
Yeah, I like that. So you've got dedicated. So so tell me about I really like that. So you've got dedicated PM guys. You've got sales team members
And BDM.
and BDM.
Yeah. We've always invested for future growth. We've never been the type of business, and this to the earlier points about how did we grow and how did we go from 4 people to 100 people. We've always invested in future growth. So we've got our plan, we've got our vision of where we want to be, And we make those investments ahead of time, anticipating that we're going to have that business.
I really like that. So how much does a BDM get paid?
It varies because they're on a
Depends on
base with
commissions as
commissions.
well,
They're on a base
so,
with commissions.
so how do they earn their commission? So they split it with the listing agent?
No, it's completely separate to sales.
BDMs are out sort of prospecting for new rental proproperties. So any properties they bring to a rent roll, they get a commission for it.
Oh, so they're only BDM. Sorry, Rex. Sorry, I know you're excited. So a BDM only works in the PM part of the business?
Only for rentals, yeah.
I reckon that's.
Can
I'm intrigued by that.
Every salesperson should be their own BDM.
That's
too,
what I
though.
would have thought.
Yeah.
And then when you were mentioning about BDMs, I'm going, what the hell is he doing in his business? So you've got a dedicated team of BDMs to go out and get rental rolls.
And to deal with leads from the sales team, which is plenty of those.
How do you deal with egos? Because you got the PM department, which is split up between traditional property managers and BDMs. And BDMs are earning commissions, whilst property managers are not necessarily earning commissions. How do you deal with that?
Our property managers do earn commissions on letting fees. BDMs earn commissions on obviously new listings. So everyone has an opportunity to grow within our business. So if somebody is within the business and they have the aspiration to become a BDM or to move into sales, we can create a pathway for them.
So I'm just stuck on this BDM thing because I haven't heard many people do this. Is this normal?
I think it's normal.
Thing,
Well, what the fuck am I doing on this show if I don't know
Can I bring something up though? Actually, you go, Dave.
No, you're the boss. You've got the magenta on.
So what I wanted to ask was, so you mentioned, a lot about you plan for the future. So what COVID's done is that it's sort of fast forwarded the future. So now we're going to have a lot of sort of, I guess, competition in the market with candidates wanting to join companies that offer sort of work from home flexibility and sort of, a more digitalized approach to their businesses. So, they can work from home and that's going to, what is the plan for the future for Rata Co? And what does the future of real estate look like for you?
Well, I think the plan is something that's under review at the moment, but we're certainly mindful of the changing landscape in the workplace, and the plans that we're talking about at the moment are to deal with the new way of doing things. And it may mean less floor space. It may mean, bringing the team under one roof. There's many options out there for us, but we don't know exactly what it is. But I know that I have confidence in our business and in my partners that we're going to come up with the right approach.
It sounds like you've got a really good relationship with your partners, right?
We do, yeah.
And we've spoken a lot about, how
Have you met his partners?
No, I met Tony. He's got a problem. Tony's got a slight problem. Well, when I say slight, I'd say an enormous problem. But he's a good.
Too good looking.
No, he's a good looking rooster.
You're going to have to cut that out.
No, we're not cutting shit out. And I'll be honest with you,
after the next
right now, no shirt. It's just jacket and have a look at this. He's like doing a plank before he meets you. Whacks out a couple of push-ups.
The worst thing I did was when I went to watch Tony play football. And he kicked six goals that day.
Oh.
I did not.
It's an average day for him,
I didn't hear the end of it for like 2
He's
months.
40 years old. He was playing in the under-12s. But anyway.
I tell him he plays in the under-50s.
No, but let's talk about, it's not all beer and Skittles, right?
No, definitely not.
Let's talk about the shit fight that we've been through. Your industry has been belted.
Yep.
How did you navigate through that? How did you keep the team together? How did you deal with the mental head fucks? There we go. I think I'm only allowed to have 3 F words, aren't I? So no
You've
more
exceeded
after
that well and truly.
Yeah, I probably have. So how did you deal with that? How did you stay on point? Because it was tough going. No one was listing a property.
Yeah. It was very hard. It was very hard, and it was hard to keep the team focused, especially the sales team. The rental team was flat chat.
Yeah.
They were extremely busy, and they still are.
But they were also dealing with like reduced rents and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, they had their plates. They're probably busier than what they usually are. Right? As far as the sales team, the big challenge for us has been to keep people motivated in a time where there's not a lot happening. So we took the opportunity to implement some technology that we've been working on over the last 12 months. And the team has been able to work on their databases hand in hand with that new technology and sort of retrain themselves and get back in touch with their databases so that coming out of this, they've been able to come out really well. And we had 10 auctions yesterday. We've got heaps more books in between now and Christmas. So the activity is back. And I think it's because we were able to keep them engaged and doing something rather than nothing through that time.
But the first few weeks, maybe even the first 2 months, one of the biggest challenges, your guys get paid a big commission and a low base, right? So their income has gone. And most of us, we as Australians, and Chanel, you have got a gift in this as well, but as we earn more income, we manage to spend it, right?
Yeah.
And so then we get to a certain level of, a lifestyle on a certain income, and then that gets belted.
It's a problem, isn't it?
It's a big problem.
Yeah.
And so did you have conversations with your team members about that, or how did you navigate through that?
And each of the team is in different circumstances personally. So I think it was more of a personal approach, salesperson by salesperson, to see what they needed from us.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's one of the realities of coronavirus and the lockdowns is that there was going to be a disruption to what the business is bringing in, and therefore what the salespeople were bringing in. But having said that, a few of the salespeople really stood up, and if you look at their figures, you wouldn't know that there was a COVID crisis in between. Yeah.
I think you communicated what was happening really, really well. And when I look at businesses that a lot of businesses or candidates that have left businesses, their reasons for leaving was because they just were left in the dark about what was happening with COVID. But what you did was that you communicated it across the board, what was happening at all times. So although it was a really shitty time, they all knew that there would be light at the end of the tunnel, and you would do everything you could to support them.
Yeah.
And again, even though it's a ginormous team, there's still that personal touch with each individual employee that you have with your business.
Chanel,
And we got
Jace.
involved.
I want to pull you up on that.
It's giving me the bedroom mindset, guys. I can't see it from there, but I can
No,
feel
all
it.
day.
No. So I agree with what you're saying, but if you go back, no one knew what the hell was going on, right? No one knew what the hell was going on. I mean, and I love you due to the time we spent in rehab together. Well, that's where we bonded, Robbo. No, respectfully, but it's easy to say.
Did you bond with Rex leading up to the rehab?
He's
It's the cause of his rehab.
No, but you're very strong there, Rex. But it's easy to say, we communicated with our team and all that sort of stuff. But right at the start, no one knew anything that was going on. But I think words are better than no words. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, even though it's so minute, even your social media posts, it was nothing but, it's going to be okay. You didn't disregard the fact that it was a shit time, and it was a shit time, and everyone was stressed. You didn't disregard that. You addressed it, and then you just every message that you relayed was, we're going to get through it. We're all part of, we're all in this together. That sounds cliche, it wasn't like live, life, love.
We did what we could
also.
also.
On the board, but
We did what we could also, working with our corporate office and with REIV and trying to push some sort of change, even though our voice is not a big one, it's a small one in the industry. But at least just to show our team that, hey, you know what, we may not have an impact, but whatever small impact we're going to have, we're going to fight for you. And we were relentless in doing that. I spent a lot of time. I can see Daniel over there. I was with Daniel at CC2, talking about things that we can do, and it was great to see the industry come together. But I just wanted to let our team know.
It was also good that the Premier
didn't
didn't even fucking listen to a word we said.
No, definitely not. No.
But you were the first to do the online auctions, weren't you, as well?
It doesn't mean that we shouldn't fight, though.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah.
Online auctions,
Yeah,
you were
the
adapted
first
to
to do it,
online
weren't you, though?
auctions,
Yeah, the
I
very
was doing
first.
auctions from my living room, so it worked out well.
Can I ask, Rob, were you wearing a full suit, or was the bottom?
Back to the
Have
outfits.
you not seen his Instagram post? It was just top half
That's
of
what
what I
I'm
saw.
referring to.
No, I just didn't have my shoes on.
Just no shoes.
I saw boxes, but
Where are you taking this show? She starts with the salami, now you're in boxes. Hey, Robbo, it's been great to have you.
been great to
You're
be
a
here.
good man. I'm glad that Tony said no and you said yes. No, what you've done in your business has been outstanding, and you're quite a humble person, which I think is an admirable quality to have. Somewhat different to some other people that we know. No, your humility is awesome. You're a good guy. You've got a great business. There's no doubt you've had some challenges along the way. I'm really looking forward to where you're going to be in the next 5 years. And I think that I know it's going to be growth. I just don't know where you're going to get to. So, Robbo,
thank
you're
you.
a good man. Thanks for coming to see
Thanks
us.
for having me. Thank you. Thanks
Rob.
guys.
Guys, I think we're just about done. Pete, I know that you're big on the whole Pete cheat sheet, and we've got this new little thing, Rex. We didn't tell you. You were out.
I was out.
All hours of the night, Pete. I'm telling you right now.
I haven't
But
slept yet, but,
So
you know.
we've brought up this thing called Pete's cheat sheet.
What is Pete's sheet?
I don't know. It's not like the handbook. It's not like the rule book. No, Pete's cheat sheet is a tip every week to give us a little bit of something to take home and put in our pocket and maybe do something good for the world, Rex, rather than just drawing everything and taking it yourself, giving something back. So, Big Pete, over to you, handsome.
Welcome to this week's cheat sheet. always start with the end in mind. If you're building a real estate agency with an asset sale in the near future as your goal, it would be a very, very different strategy to building a real estate agency that you wanted a passive income from. Always start with the end in mind. My tip for the week.
There we go. Pete's first cheat sheet.
I liked it.
Begin with the end in mind. You know what the end I'm thinking about, Rex? Is that salami at Harcourts and Rata. Hey, thanks, Pete. You're a star. Robbo, we love you, big man.
you.
Whack it on there.
Thanks, guys.
See you next week, guys. All the best to your families. And let's hope Rex brings his A game next week. Eh? All the best.